Hey class, this is Mr. B. How are y'all doing? And we're going to start today on inspecting a truck. We're in preventive maintenance and inspection, so this is what we're going to do today. It's going to take the whole semester to do it, but because there's a lot to it. But I'm going to teach you this a little at a time, and I'm going to send you these videos, and you're going to watch them. You're going to study this stuff up, and then you're going to come in and perform what I've given you to do. And don't sweat it, I'm going to help you do it, and then at the end of the semester you'll do it on your own, and it'll be worth a lot of points, and you'll be fine for doing it. Say you come in on Monday morning and the boss says, hey, go out there and get this truck, bring it in, and do a preventive maintenance inspection on it. Well, I'm going to teach you how to do this the way I did it for 34 years being a truck mechanic. And as I would walk out to the truck Monday morning, the first thing I would do is, as I was walking up to it, I would look under it. And what am I looking for? I'm looking for coolant, which you will see there's some right there. And I know it's there because this thing needs a radiator cap on it, I believe. But I would notice that. I would be looking for transmission fluid, power steering fluid, oil, things of that nature. Do I see any of that under the truck? Well, the truck's been running, so if there's any issues with it, you're going to see it right there on the ground. Then I walk around here to the door and I enter the truck, and I'm trying to be as still as I can with this camera so you can see this really well. I'll have a GoPro soon, but I'm trying to do this on my wife's camera, so I hope it comes out fine. When you get in a truck, they always have either a hand and a foot or two hands or something like that. It's called a 3 points. That's because you got your foot, your hand here, and a hand here. Just be safe getting in. If you're coming out on a rainy morning or a cold, frosty morning and that's aluminum, your foot can slip off. Well, if you got two hands up there, you'll be fine. So just be safe getting into the truck. Let's ease on in this truck, and I'm going to talk you through some things, and we're going to go from there. Before I do that, I forgot on this sheet, we're going to inspect for the safety equipment. Now, what safety equipment is that? Right here, there's a baggage. See that? Pull that, opens this side box. Here we go. Fire extinguisher. Every truck's got to have a fire extinguisher. Look at it. It's on full right there. If it's on empty, you got to get a new one. You got to put it in there. Right here, these are called safety triangles. And what a safety triangle is if, say, the truck breaks down, you got to have these behind the truck, so many feet behind it, so people that are coming up can see it. And I've got one set up over here, but there's 3 of them in a box, and all it is you open up and it's a triangle. These things are filled with sand or something like that to weigh it down, and it's a safety triangle. When the lights from the passenger cars hits it, it'll reflect, and they'll see it, and it'll warn them that they're coming up on an accident. So you got to have both of them. All right, let's move up here. Okay, now I'm gonna get in this truck. You're out on the yard, remember. Boss man told you go get this truck. Now what I want you to do, if you've never drove a truck, then you have to learn to be a mechanic, and there's nothing to it. You got a gear shifter right here. Side to side is neutral. If you put it in gear, it won't move side to side. Side to side is neutral. But to start a truck, you have to hold this thing in, which is called the clutch. To crank this truck, you push the clutch all the way to the floor. I gotta have the switch on over here. Here we go. There you go. The clutch is in. If I was in gear, it wouldn't move. But as I pull this clutch out, if I had it in gear, it would start moving. So you hold the clutch in to crank the truck. Now, you're out here on the yard. You just started the truck up. You're about to bring it in the shop to work on it, to do the inspection on it. So there's some things you can check as you're pulling it in. One of them is the starter. Now what the starter is when I turn that key, that starting sound, that is the starter. And you'll learn more about starters pretty soon. But the way I tested it is the truck started. If it had a knocking or a clanking or a dragging or something like that, I would know I had a starter issue, but I didn't. It cranked fine, it rolled over fine. I just tested the starter on this thing, so I can check off on that sheet that I checked the starter. While I'm in here, let me show you some other things right here. You got air pressure. That says P there, that says S there. That's primary, secondary. There are 3 air tanks on a truck. You got a supply, which is also called a wet tank. You have a primary and a secondary. And you'll learn more about that as we work on this through the class, and particularly in the second semester when we go into breaks. You'll know a lot more about it then, and by the end of the semester, this stuff will be like clockwork to you. It won't be no big deal. But watch this right here. Now see, as I'm hitting the brakes, they're air brakes. All I'm doing is pushing the brake. That gauge is dropping. See how it's red in there? When it gets in that red, you should have a buzzer come on and a light right in here. Let's see. There it is. That should come on around 70 psi. The light's on. That is supposed to work that way. This is doing what it ought to. Now, as that climbs and gets out of the red, which is around 70, that light should go out and the buzzer should go out. Well, so I can rev the engine up and it'll go faster. Watch. We're climbing. We're almost to 70. There it went. Light is out. Now, you can test that as you're coming in the shop also. Now, the max air pressure you want on a truck is about 120 to 130, depending on who you work for. Typically it's 120, 125, but Ryder, I believe they wanted it 130, and that's whose sheet we have to do this inspection with. That would be, there's 100, there's 120, 100, 120, 140, 160. See that? So around 120 is when that air should stop. Something else happens when that 120 happens. There's something called an air dryer, and the air dryer purges at 120. Now I'm going to open this door, and I hope you can hear it. If you can't, don't sweat it, because when you come in to do this inspection, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to give it a little gas, rev it up. See how these are your RPMs. They're climbing up. As the engine revs up, the air compressor spins, builds air up faster. Now watch that gauge as we get up around 120. And listen, I hope you can hear it. I'll tell you when it happens. Alright, we're getting close. Now I'm going to let off. Now listen. Let's see if you can hear it. Come on, baby. There it went. Did you hear? I hope you heard that. It went. Psh. That is the air dryer purging the air out. When that happens, that air pressure stops building up. You can be standing outside this truck, start it, and when you hear that purge from outside the truck, you know this truck is maxed air, 120, 125 in that neighborhood. That's working right. See, this is something that you can check as you're coming into the shop. Now, let's look at this sheet right here, and I'm going to go through it a little bit. We checked our safety equipment. It says inspect floor mats, covering, pedal pads, things of that nature. All that is you're just looking down here on the ground, on the floor. Make sure it's not cut, and make sure no bolts are up, no screws or all that. The pads we're talking about right here. This is your clutch, that rubber pad, your brake rubber pad, the accelerator rubber pad. Make sure that's fine. Make sure it's on there. These things come off. Make sure they're fine, they're not tore. Inspect the floor. Make sure no screws popped up. Driver can get in here and hurt himself by something sticking up out of the floor. It's really simple, this process. But it's just you not doing it, so you don't know. But you'll be fine with it. Inspect seats, seat belts, sleeper restraints. Of course, you know how to check a seat belt. Every car has one by law. You got to have them, and all it is you hook it up, make sure it works. Seat belt. I hope you can see this fine. I'm getting a GoPro soon, so it'll be better. Work the switches. Truck seat coming up, down. Lumbar support. Make sure all that stuff's working. Make sure that's working. Let's see here. Where are we at? Let's see. Inspect air and electric horn. Electric horn, air horn. Hear it? Both of them have to work. By law, they have to work. If that horn don't work, fix it. Write it up and have somebody else fix it. That one don't work, fix it. It has to work. That'll be a test question coming up. You know, a horn is very important. It is a safety device. Now we're going to look back at this clutch pedal. If you didn't know already, you should know, because you had to push it in to start it. Here's your clutch. And you have to push the clutch in order to make it go in gear. According to the sheet, it wants you to check free travel and clutch brake operation. The free travel is right here. There's some play there, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches before the clutch before you can feel the clutch. That's what you want. You want about 1 inch to 1.5 inches, and that's what we have right there. Now it says to check the clutch brake. Let me show you how to do that. Right here, this is your parking brake. This is air brakes, and when you push this brake in, it releases the air to make it work. Watch this. If I put it in gear and I try to move, it won't move. I'm going to pull it out the side so you can see that. I'm not moving anywhere. That parking brake is holding it. It's not going to move. If I push that brake in, the brake is released. Let me put it in a gear. Now, watch out my window. You'll see me starting to move when I let off the clutch. There, I'm moving. Now, to check the clutch brake, you push the clutch in, you put it in a gear, and you start easing back just a little bit. As it starts to roll, push that clutch in and you'll feel like a brake effect. When you feel that brake effect, that means that clutch is working. If the clutch brake is replaceable, you'll get into that later on in next year probably as you do this class. But if the clutch brake doesn't work, the clutch don't stop to put it in gear, and you can't drive a truck without them. But as you push that clutch brake in, you can feel a braking effect on it, and that's what you're looking for. So let's move on here. Inspect parking brake operation. I just told you about the parking brake. The way I check a parking brake, and I've always done this when I was working in truck shops, as I was pulling the truck in to do the inspection on it, the truck would roll, and then I would pull that valve out and it would stop the truck. And that's how I would do it. I would ease in about 2 miles an hour. I would pull that brake out while it's still in gear, and it should stop the truck. If it stops the truck, you know that parking brake is working right. If that truck keeps rolling, even though that's out, your brakes are way out of adjustment, and I'm going to teach you how to adjust them pretty soon. So that's how you check a parking brake. Let's see, test service brakes. You got parking, this is the truck, that is the trailer, and then down here, that one is the brake. That's accelerator, brake, clutch. The way you check a parking brake is you just hit the brake. And you'll do that as you're driving the truck in. So that's kind of self-explanatory. But as you're driving this truck in, you can check so many things as you're bringing it in. Alright, let's move on here. Inspect HVAC system controls in cab and in sleeper. All that is these. 0, 1 is the lowest, 8 is the highest. Go through it, make sure they're working, come through, they're all fine. There's your blue is cold, of course, red is hot. Then you get over here and this is where it comes in. Let's move it over to defrost. Defrost is up there where it's on defrost, so it should stop coming out of these vents, and it's already stopped blowing out the defrost. Check them out, make sure they all work fine. Come back here. This is the sleeper. Let me turn all these lights on back here so you can see. There we go. There is the sleeper. You got bunk beds back here. There's one there, one up there. They pull down. You could get 2 drivers back here if need be. We're going to come back here. Here's our controllers. Same thing as up front. There's cold, there's hot. There's your speeds. Make sure they all work. And they're fine. While you're back here, check all your lights out. They're all working up there. See them? Everything's working fine here. Everything's got to be working in this truck, and if it's not, then you got to report it or fix it. Alright, let's move up here and do a little more work here. Alright, let's see here. Inspect warning lights and alarms. Now, if you had an engine issue, you would have an engine warning light there, and it would be blinking, beeping, making a noise, something of that nature. That brake light right there is your parking brake. Watch, it'll go out when I push. It's out. Pull it out, it's on. Remember I told you about the air pressure, 120 the max. Down there it's low. To test that light, all you got to do is, I'm hitting the brake, bleeding the air on. There it is. Light on, buzzer on. That is a requirement, and that's going to be around 70 psi. There it goes, it went off. Build it back up to 120, you're fine there. You're checking all these lights out to make sure these emergency lights work. That's how the driver knows something's going on. If he's got an engine issue, something's going on, that light will come on warning him, and when he gets it to a shop, they can hook it up to a computer, which I'm going to teach you how to do that also, and be able to determine what's going on with it. Let's move on. Inspect lighting on all gauges. These gauges right here, all you do is turn the headlights on, and then you got to kind of hold your hand over it and see. You can see all the lights. There they are. They are simple to replace. If any's out, pull these 4 screws out, pull it out, put another one in, you're fine. Okay? You check all the dash lights on everything. Let's move on here. Legibility of dash brake valves lettering and labeling. This one here, again, it's your emergency parking brake. If it's pulled out, the truck's not going anywhere. When you push it in, it is releasing them, the wheels will turn. This one is to the trailer. When you hook up to a trailer, you push that one in. When you push this one, it sends air into that trailer to release all those brakes. According to the write-up, the inspection sheet, they want to know that you can read all the labeling, and you can. If you can't, let me show you how easy that is to fix. This is just too easy. You unscrew it, put it right back in. All of them are not made that way. Some of them have what's called roll pins in them, and hopefully I can find one and show you how that works, but it's really, really simple. Inspect interior and bunk lights. We did that. We checked that out just a minute ago. Inspect windshield and sun visors. Here's your sun visors, here and over there. There's a lot of glass in a truck. Look at all that glass. Truck driver needs sun visor. You need it in your car, and I do too, so you know he's going to need one. So make sure they're fine. It also says check for the glass. Make sure there's no cracks. Now if you'll notice right here, there's a little tiny one. I don't know if you can see that in this video or not. That is no big deal. No big deal at all. But if it was in sight of the driver, something small like that, you ain't got to worry about. There's one over on that window. I don't know if you can see it or not. They're so small, they're no big deal. And they're not in the vision of the driver. That is fine. No issues at all. But check all the glass. Make sure things are not cracked, broke. Then we're going to do the windshield washer. Right here. Turn it. There's my wipers. Hold it in. There's my washer. You got to make sure that's working. And if it's low of windshield washer fluid, you put it in. I'm going to show you how to do that in a step or two. 2 more things, and that'll be it for today. It says check steering wheel free play, and that is basically you hold the steering wheel and you just shake it. It's just that little movement before anything turns. It should be about 2 inches, and that's about what that is. Then you need to turn it and feel for any binding, any tightness, anything of that. Nothing. That thing turns great. And that's what you want. Alright? Now we're going to move out and do one more step. And that's all we're going to have for today. We're going to turn all the lights on. Turn our flashers on right there. All the lights are on. Let's go out here and check. Turn signal right there.